All right. And the runners are off. Sorry about the layout here right now. We are still working on it. Looks like Juicebox has selected Sharpedo as his main. I believe Yimmo will follow suit, though it took him a little bit longer to come to the decision. Understandable. Definitely want to make sure that you're choosing the right main. Especially given that moveset, though, Sharpedo is the right choice. Sharpedo also has really, really good stats. So it would be understandable why they chose that. And that moveset's really good. Whereas the small difference we see first off, right off the bat, is Juicebox chose Drifloon, whereas Yimmo chose Aeron. I think that it's pretty heavily debatable which one would be correct here. Seeing as both of them have decent stats, so honestly, it might come down to move pool simply as to which one actually ends up being better. But either way, neither of them should have a ton of problems with their partner. When you're going through these randomizers, typically what you're looking for in a partner is just something that will survive if it can do a little bit of damage output, especially near the end of the game when you start having PP problems. That's really good to have, but it's not at all necessary. We do see Yimmo jumping out to like a 1-floor lead here. Juicebox getting a couple more levels under him. Honestly, those levels are really kind of costing him time at this point. They're not really worth it. But Yimmo will end up getting those levels eventually, probably anyway. So any gap that's being created here, Yimmo will probably have to fight through that time, just like JVC will. I want to talk a little bit about the matchup between these two players before we get too far into it. So both of these runners are very active in the community. Yimmo is very active on the leaderboards for this game in particular, typically with the vanilla categories, though I think he usually best known for longer runs. So he is like, he does our, I believe he, at one point, he may still be the record holder. I think he actually is still the record holder for Beat Darkrai percent, which is basically like kind of like this game's 100%, like doing some of the post-game dungeons. Whereas Juicebox actually, like, I think kind of his biggest claim to fame in this tournament is he basically wrote the documents that most people are using to determine whether a Pokemon is good. He basically, he's done a lot of his homework and he's done a lot of these practice runs. So in my opinion, one of the very interesting kind of dynamics, you know, if you're to oversimplify it a little bit, is that Yimmo has way more experience with Explorers of Sky in general, but Juicebox, from everything I'm aware of, has a lot more experience with this randomizer in particular. So it's kind of a little bit of vanilla skill versus randomizer skill coming in here, and it makes it a really interesting dynamic for this match, which is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to see what happens here. Yeah, and here we see, like I said, Juicebox is going to be catching up here a little bit because with all of these kills that Yimmo's doing, Yimmo is starting to learn the moves and get the level ups that Juicebox has already had to go through those text boxes. So you can see that very small gap that he had closing a little bit. He's still got about a 2-floor lead here, but obviously that's not really substantial enough to say that he's in a like huge lead right now. Though this is kind of speaking to some of Yimmo's strengths in this game. Since he's just played more of the game, he's played more of the post game especially, he'll be more aware of the layouts that this game could potentially throw at him for floors. So one of my expectations would be that Juicebox, just based on what I know about these runners, and you know, it might not be entirely accurate, Juicebox probably has a little bit more knowledge of like the enemies that he's going to run into and how threatening they can be, whereas Yimmo might have a little bit more experience in terms of like the layouts and like being able to find the stairs more effectively, which you know, depending on the seed, if we run into something really difficult, that could easily give one or the other runner more of an advantage. Also, just for anybody who's not aware and following these tournaments online, there is currently actually 2 matches happening right now. It looks like the other one has not started on SpeedGaming 2. We also have Zabuz versus Diego Lazo. So lots of PMD to happen today. If you want to watch this, either watch it back on the VODs or, you know, be flipping between both live. Either way. Yimmo, instead of rare fossils here, it looks like rare fossils will not be too hard to come by for Yimmo here. I haven't seen if Juicebox has a couple for himself, but I imagine he has 1 or 2 stacks as well. Either way, if you needed any proof that Sharpedo was a good Pokemon, you're seeing it here. This Sharpedo is absolutely wrecking house. Yeah, so we always talk about a couple of big advantages that we'll be looking for here is kind of some of the luxury items that you can get in this randomizer. So yeah, so Juicebox there throwing a rare fossil, so he definitely has at least 1 stack. So a couple of things that we're going to be looking for out of the runners here, especially since they're both on the same floor now. So any lead that Yimmo has is now gone, which obviously very understandable, kind of expected. But things that we'll be looking for. Both runners right now will be looking for more rare fossils. So if anyone sees those on the ground, one runner having a larger stack of rare fossils than the other can definitely be a big advantage. Of course, with the mains being this good, I don't know how highly I would value that. Obviously, you take the rare fossils where you can. But with how fast this Sharpedo is going to kill things, if you end up with lower rare fossils than your opponent, you know, that you can kind of make that up with just how good this Sharpedo is. So big things that we're going to be looking for are things that increase speed of the run. So things like a Warp Scarf, X-Ray Specs, Goggle Specs. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking for. No guarantee that they turn up, however. And Juicebox is on to the Drowsy. It looks like it's a Snorlax this time. So that boss has a set 100 base health, no matter what Pokemon it ends up being. So 1 rare fossil will take it out, which is exactly the strategy that Juicebox decides to go for here. Most runners will go for that. So we'll probably see Yimmo with use 1 of his rare fossils on the Snorlax as well. And he's entering that boss fight right now. And there's the Snorlax down. Yeah, so both of the runners are in the same dungeon. Juicebox maybe has like a 1-floor lead, but that's such a fickle lead, it's barely worth mentioning. Yep, and there you go. We're on the same floor again. This is a really, really tight race at this point. Also, going into Waterfall Cave at the 9-minute mark, certainly nothing to scoff at. You know, this isn't like world breaking, like breakneck pace, but this is a good time. Ooh, Metagross with Earthquake. That can be a little threatening. Another advantage that we'll be able to see here is I don't know how much Juicebox has used it up to this point, but both Sharpedo and Drifloon can go over water, whereas Yimmo, if he decides to go over water with his Sharpedo, will end up leaving the Aaron behind. So we might be able to see Juicebox do a little bit of do a little bit of shenanigans with that in terms of, avoiding a couple more fights, getting to check 1 or 2 more rooms a little bit quicker. I believe both of the runners picked up a set of gaggle specs in this dungeon. Oh, and Yimmo's going to go ahead and use his link box here, it seems. Understandable. So a link box basically lets you use what in the vanilla game is the Electivire shop in the middle of a dungeon, which is important because we don't spend much time outside of a dungeon. Also, just a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper. But he's going to go ahead and use his link box now. Juicebox Commando also finding a link box, and he's going to choose to use it here. Both of them only linking 2 moves. I believe Yimmo used it on the Sharpedo, whereas Juicebox decided to use it on the Drifloon. So again, minor differences here. Whether or not that was a better decision for Juicebox versus whether it was a better decision for Yimmo is really going to depend on whether Juicebox continues to one-shot things with Sharpedo. Right now, it is, and it'll be fine. However, if this Sharpedo stops one-shotting things, then having the link moves will start to become the better decision. And obviously, at some point in this race, the Sharpedo is going to stop one-shotting things. It's just a matter of how long that takes. So we'll really have to watch Juicebox to see how long he is able to continually just one-shot everything in sight. Juicebox being a bit bitten there by his choice to use the Drifloon and Sharpedo's movement over water. Yimmo is blazing ahead through this next dungeon. Of course, you never really want to talk about how much of a lead in terms of floors that is, because if Yimmo's having this easy a time going through this dungeon, it's very possible that Juicebox will as well. But the fact that Yimmo is already on the 8th floor of the dungeon that Juicebox is just now starting means that Yimmo has a bigger lead than he's had basically all race. Juicebox deciding to go on a little bit of a shopping trip, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and link his moves now. So we talked about using the link box as a way to basically use this Electivire shop. This is the Electivire shop. You need 500 gold to use it though. So he went ahead and sold some items so that he could go ahead and link his moves. Like I said, same thing. Whether or not that's a good decision just starts depending on, how much mileage he gets out of using those moves. Obviously, it took a little bit, but the kind of advantage right now that we then have is actually not with Juicebox's Sharpedo versus Yimmo's Sharpedo. The advantage right now is actually between Drifloon and Aaron again, because the Drifloon has linked moves and the Aaron doesn't. So Juicebox can actually rely on Drifloon to do some fighting now, whereas the Aaron's probably still going to struggle. Yeah, just right now, just as I say it, Aaron getting into a fight on screen, Yimmo has to turn around and throw a rare fossil. Yeah, but as far as what Juicebox... Juicebox is a tactical genius. The copy pastas begin again. We'll have to see if that proves true. The true tactical genius play that Juicebox Commando is using this time is this Drifloon, so we'll have to see. There's a Warp Scarf for Juicebox. Okay, so this is a big deal. So Warp Scarf is a little bit... Warp Scarf definitely does have some skill to using it efficiently in these randomizers. But what Warp Scarf does is, as you can see, every few steps, the Sharpedo is just going to teleport. It's just going to go all around the map, do whatever it wants. And the goal here is that you just keep warping until you find the stairs, take off the Warp Scarf, go to the stairs, move on. So that way you don't have to worry about any hallways, you don't have to worry about anything like that. So part of it is luck, depending on how much it improves your time, and part of it is skill, because you still want to be able to watch out and be looking for where once you recognize the layouts, whether or not continuing to use the warp scarf to find more rooms is going to be faster than just going to the rooms. But the other thing that will also, so like right here, Juicebox at this point noticing, hey, this warp scarf could continue to just keep bouncing me back and forth between these two stair floors, between these two rooms. So if I take it off, he probably knows this layout by now, so he's just going to go to the rooms manually, because at this point, if the warp scarf gives him bad luck, it's going to become faster to just check it manually. Runner's still really neck and neck. I believe that Juicebox is on the last floor of Apple Woods here, whereas Yimmo is in Craggy Coast. Both of them, you usually don't see in the cutscene those reviver seeds being added to your bag, but because both of the runners have a full bag at this point, they had to decide whether or not they wanted to keep it. Obviously, they're going to keep the reviver seeds. But yeah, now you can kind of see very clearly. Okay, so this is where things start to get a little bit questionable for the warp scarf use by Juicebox. So at this point in the game, we have the Doof joining us, which in the vanilla game is a Bidoof. In this game, in this randomizer, it looks like today it is a Tentacruel. So really, this Tentacruel can do anything. You cannot tell it what to do. You cannot tell it to start using moves. You cannot tell it to stop using moves. So the big thing that I'm looking for here, if I'm Juicebox, is basically you have to make a decision. And that decision is, how much do you trust this Tentacruel to take care of itself? Because if you trust this Tentacruel to take care of itself, you can start using your Warp Scarf again. But the downside of the Warp Scarf is that you're leaving the Tentacruel alone. The Tentacruel can do whatever it wants. It can even decide to die. So it really does kind of depend on what moves the Tentacruel has. Tentacruel, I believe, is a decently bulky Pokemon, but honestly, like, it could be a lot better. So, just based on the poke alone, I don't be by itself. But if it shows a move that changes my mind, I mean, I'll start using the Warp Scarf again, personally. But we'll have to see what Juicebox decides to do with it. Yeah, Juicebox not being able to employ his famous tactic of spawning on the stairs is a little bit hurting him here. Yeah, it does certainly look like Yimmo's just getting a bit better stair luck here. Of course, we can't call it entirely luck. It is a little bit of like skill of knowledge of the layouts, which of course Juicebox has plenty of. So, really hard to determine, like which one's which one's doing better in that category. Oh, was that Aeroblast out of the Tentacruel? Yimmo moving on to the first floor of Mount Horn here. Mount Horn is going to be the longest and most difficult dungeon in the randomizer. Interesting. Yeah, he does decide to leave the Aaron behind there. But this is a 14-floor dungeon. You can run into hunger problems. You can run into PP problems. You can run into... and if you die, it just ends up being really bad, because if you take a really late death, this dungeon's really long. You could lose the race off that. I will say one thing that has definitely seemed to become consistent here is whether it be by luck or by knowledge of the dungeons, whatever you want to call it, Yimmo does consistently seem to be a couple floors ahead. So at this point, Juicebox doesn't know that. But if he did, he might consider like doing some riskier strats, like using that Warp Scarf a little bit more. But also, like I said, if they both come out of Mount Horn, you know, fairly well tied, and Juicebox starts using that Warp Scarf again, that can easily change the landscape of this race. Oh yeah, this is definitely one of the closest. This is one of, if not the closest race I've seen this tournament. I will also say that one of the big things with this randomizer is practicing these randomizer runs is a huge deal. Like I would really encourage anybody who like wants to see like that truth be replicated, just put this match from Yimmo side by side with the match that he did against me in round 1. This is very obviously a better player at this run right now. Like, well, you kind of have to discount the fact that he ran a Manaphy against me, but Yimmo picking up a Reviver Seed, that's definitely going to give him a good bit of safety that he needs. 5 floors ahead Yimmo is right now. 5 floors, that's all. Oh, well, 6 floors now. 6 floors, and it looks like he has found himself a set of X-ray specs. So X-ray specs are probably going to be more useful in Mount Horn than the Warp Scarf, but not by a ton. Both of these are kind of those luxury items, as I call them, things that can make the run faster, but obviously you don't necessarily need. X-ray specs, as you can see on Yimmo's screen, he is not in. Pathing a little bit around those enemies and try to avoid a couple fights, though he is getting a little low here. Yeah, Yimmo definitely here. You can see him using his muscles to make sure that the Tentacruel doesn't have to engage in too many fights by itself. So definitely, this Tentacruel is not trustworthy at this point. You don't want to let it fight if you don't have to, which is very much limiting Juicebox Commando's like advantages in this race. Like that Warp Scarf is a big deal if it weren't for the fact that you cannot leave this Tentacruel alone. It might die. Looks like he's choosing to use the Warp Scarf here regardless a little bit to try and get a little bit better of a sense of the floor, try and get that layout down a little bit faster, try and find the stairs a little bit faster. So hopefully, you know, separating yourself from this Tentacruel is a bit of a risky strat, but it is a faster strat, so if it works, it works. Yeah, I also can't emphasize enough, like, as close as this race is, part of the reason why it's so close is just that nothing in this run so far has been that bad. Yimmo using a Petrify Orb there to get to the stairs without having to deal with a couple of the enemies. And Yimmo is in Foggy Forest. So, I've said it before on streams that I've commentated. Usually the first person out of Mount Horn is the person who wins the race. And kind of hard to argue with Yimmo at this point. If both of the runners continue at the pace that they're going, Yimmo's going to win. Obviously, you know, that's somewhat obvious given the fact that he's in the lead right now. But I don't think the importance of that statement can be understated. Whereas, you know, it is very possible, however, that Yimmo starts getting blazingly faster if that Warp Scarf ends up working out for him once he gets past Mount Horn, and he only has 2 more floors in Mount Horn. So again, still 5-6 floors separating the runners. That's it. Juicebox starting to get hungry here. Hopefully that doesn't become an issue. Could cost him a couple seconds from going into the menu. And yeah, he's just going to use the Warp Scarf here. Just get out of this floor as fast as possible. And he's through Mount Horn. Still exactly 6 floors separating our runner. Yimmo holding on to this lead as tightly as he can. Yeah, and this is where we'll really have to see. Yeah, that gap's closing. The gap is closing. He's only 3 floors ahead right now, Yimmo. So this warp scar's gonna start to pay off. Juicebox having to get into a bit of a fight here. That's gonna cost him a bit. I mean, with this race so close, every single fight you have to do is something that you have to question whether or not you had to do it. Every single fight that Juicebox gets into is an opportunity for Yimmo to get ahead because of those X-ray specs, giving him the possibility to dodge those fights. Especially with, looks like Juicebox is relying on his link moves to kill things right now. Yimmo's out of Foggy. This race is so close. Yeah, like 3 or 4 floors separating them right now. Oh no, a musicless dungeon! A musicless dungeon ends the whole thing. I hate this. This is crazy, though. Oh, this bad weather is going to cause Yimmo some problems. All right, he's able to get through it without too many issues. Still, his Sharpedo's at low health. I mean, this is so tight, and you don't want to give Juicebox any space to catch up, but you've got to question whether you need the heal or not. Because if he runs into another floor that has Sandstorm and ends up in a fight that he can't get out of, he could easily die. Attack order taking Sharpedo to 7 health! Oh my gosh, Yimmo is playing this game on the edge of a knife right now. Yeah, Juicebox needs to start using fossils. The moves are wasting too much time. 6 floors. Yimmo has a 6-floor advantage right now. That is it. This race, like, I think the thing that Juicebox has to rely on right now in order to get him back into this race, not at all that he's like that far behind, is he just has to hope that the warp scar starts paying off. Five-floor lead for Juicebox. 6-floor lead for Yimmo. And he's to the second part of Steamy Cave. One thing is for certain, this race is being won by inches, not miles. This is the closest race I have seen in this. This is ridiculous. Oh, Aaron has to eat a Reviver Seed! While I like the Secret Bazaar music, I don't think it's appropriate for this situation. Not to mention, these times are still pretty fast. Yimmo is about close to the end of it, and he's on 29 minutes and 30 seconds. Anything under 35 is a really, really good time for players of this high caliber. Yeah, it's a race to lose at this point. I don't think the Warp Scar is going to get Juicebox out of it. Yimmo's play has just been too efficient and too clean. Alright, and we're on the Groudon. Oh, he still has 2 Reviver Seeds in his bag. He should be more than fine at this point. I'm not sure what he's looking for in his bag. Looks like it's not going to come in that big a deal, but it is probably a waste of a couple seconds. And that's GG with a time of 30:29 for Yimmo. Oh my gosh. That was so close. Let's see if we can get Yimmo in here. That was a wild race. Oh my gosh. Sorry for a little bit of a delay. We're going to be getting Yimmo in here for a winner's interview in just a second. Meanwhile, I do still want to see what kind of time Juicebox ends up with. Fine at this point. But congratulations to Yimmo. Very, very good game here. And we are joined by our winner, Yimmo. Yimmo, how do you feel about the race?
Oh, man, Gorguda going in.
Yeah, so just to let you know, like, how this race went and to kind of give you an idea, Juicebox is on the 7th floor of Upper Steamy right now.
Yeah, I see. He also running the shark. Like, no surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise there. He chose the Drifloon instead. But neither partner really was too big a factor in this race just because of the quality of this Sharpedo.
I just like he just wanted something tanky. I could have linked mine. This is like at that point, even then, just like 30 rare fossils, like no biggies, no offensive need.
Yeah.
I feel like the seat had a lot of big layouts, so I got really lucky on a lot of stair luck, and my hidden stairs luck, even without the goggles, was phenomenal. I was just very, very fortunate on that end.
Well, I mean, you say it was luck, a lot of it, and like obviously there is a little bit of luck going into both of your runs. And GG from Juicebox. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can get him in here in a second. But one thing I do want to point out is that, like, one of the biggest determining factors in this race is that you came out of Beach Cave with like a 2 or 3 floor lead, and basically you were never behind in this race. You were about 3 to 5 floors ahead basically the entire time, even though Juicebox found himself a warp scarf fairly early.
Yeah, I mean, I got like 3 stair floors on Beach Cave, so that's why I came out. 3 floors ahead, I imagine.
Yeah, that's very possible.
And welcome, Warp Scarf. Like, there's too many rooms for Warp Scarf to be impactful, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, either way, I'd like to welcome Juicebox to the call. How you doing, Juicebox? How do you feel about the run?
I mean, I would be lying if I'd ever said that I was happy about that. I mean, there's bad luck, but there's a certain point where it just becomes the amount of anti-stairs that I had was just egregious. It was ridiculous.
Dang, yeah. I feel like, and you played really well. I feel like it just came down to these big layouts. They could just spend like 2 minutes on one or like 10 seconds. It's like a lot.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single Sky Pillar Peak / Chasm Cave layout that I didn't find the stairs in the last 2 rooms. I'd probably spend at least 10 minutes just in those layouts.
And there were a lot of those, true.
Yeah, either way, I want to applaud you both because a couple things. A, we're already pretty deep into the tournament, so this was, you should definitely both be proud of your performances for making it thus far. The second thing is that this race was insanely close the entire time. I said this before you got on Juicebox, but basically, like, it was like Yimmo was like 2 or 3 floors ahead in Beach Cave, and basically that was the story for the entire run. Like, it was just like 3 floors ahead, 5 floors ahead, 6 floors ahead, 3 floors ahead, like constantly.
It really lived up to the name of the 10 Dungeon Blitz or whatever. Just like,
Yeah. Yeah, and neither of these times are that bad either. What was it? It was like a 30-29, 32 something?
Yeah, 32-55.
I
Yeah,
feel like
32,
both are like, I don't know, like top 10 whole tournament maybe.
Yeah, I mean this late in the run, obviously, the practice runs that we've done off stream are different, but like I was saying at this point, most runners of this caliber, like anything under 35 is still pretty good, Under 30 is the real goal for like a really good run, but anything under 35 is a good run at this point.
Yeah, I feel like close to like a 30 is like you might not know what your opponent is, but you're kind of confident about that you want to win. I don't think it's top 30 is realistic. I mean, maybe way deeper into the tournament, but it's still like both times I feel like could have won races. Anything.
Yeah. I mean, like a noob did put a sub 30 on SpeedGaming yesterday, but yeah, the sub 30s are definitely a rare thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, like Secure has like a 21 on practice, but like you're realistically just trying to get as low to 30 as possible.
But yeah, so a couple things. Juicebox, how did you feel about your drift loon?
The drift loon was fantastic.
Yeah, we were talking about that. That was another big difference in the runners. So you chose that drift loon, and Yimmo chose an Aaron.
Yeah, I was super happy with the drift loon. Extremely survivable, just really good attacking stats, and also the foggy forest where I was just able to warp scarf, and it literally just walked off the map. That was perfect.
True, yeah, the chasm cave layout, no walls layout.
Yeah.
It just felt like after all of this like commentary where like Hawk is like trash talking and like the runners like you pick these good starters, like we all had to like study up and just pick good starters for once.
Yeah, I mean the starters were really good, and so a couple things that we could also talk about. Let's talk about this tournament so far. First off, I do want to give commiserations to you, Juicebox. This is going to be the end of your tournament run, and we're definitely sad to see you go. I mean, like you wrote up resources that a lot of the community are using to determine their mains right now. So definitely your impact on this tournament is felt, and really glad that you were able to participate.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll still probably you can't really call it practice anymore, but I'll be doing for fun ROMs, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely continued with mine at this rate, with my quote unquote practice at this rate as well. We're just practicing for the next tournament. But either way, Yimmo, your next opponent will be like a noob. How do you feel?
I was feeling fine until, well, I mean, I was not feeling fine because he's a really good player. But then you said he put up a sub 30 yesterday that I didn't watch, and now I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
not looking forward to that.
We've been getting pretty not consistent sub 30s because some ROMs just like they aren't possible to sub 30, but he's been getting them when it's possible to get a sub 30. He's been getting a sub 30.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to practice. Like, a lot of the top runners will say, once you get to a certain skill level, you just got to find the right seed and you'll get a sub 30. So, I mean, and is this a PB for you, or do you have a sub 30 already?
Yes, yeah. I don't really time them off stream.
Okay.
I don't even run splits because it's just like PMD.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it should be PB, yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like every good run is just like my good luck's gonna run out. Maybe next match, maybe the second one if I get there. Like I don't know, it's about to run out, and then it's just like, well, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, either way, this was a really good run. And like I said, like 30-29 is not at all a time to be ashamed of. That elusive sub 30. Still, hopefully, you'll get it at one point. But yeah. Do either of our runners have any final thoughts before we go ahead and end the episode?
I'm all good.
Thank you so much, everybody supporting the tournament. Like the past few days, donation-wise, it's just been blown up. So I joined for the fancies, and then suddenly, well, I mean, just the community is popping off, and I'm so proud.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the PMD community expected this tournament to go as well as it did, and it's definitely been I've enjoyed watching it so much. So again, commiserations to you, Juicebox. But thank you for participating, and like I said, I definitely appreciate the resources that you've posted. So that
Yeah,
yeah, for
for sure.
sure. And Yimmo, congratulations and good luck in your next match.
Thank
Make sure
you.
you follow both of these runners. I believe their Twitches are in the commands, and if you feel so inclined to follow me as well, go ahead. But other than that, for both of our runners, my name has been Stray Saga, and thank you for watching.